Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the next episode of Weird Catholic Things, Lenten Edition.
That's right. Kevin, we are almost at the end of Lent. Can you believe that?
No, it's crazy how fast it's gone by. And,
Wow.
being near the end of Lent already, that means that we're coming up on a very important Sunday, which is Palm Sunday, the beginning of Holy Week.
I love Palm Sunday so much. It's one of
Yeah.
my favorite. It begins one of my most favorite weeks of the year.
Yeah, and the most important week of the year
Yeah.
for us as Christians. And, with all the symbolism of Palm Sunday and of Holy Week, I think one of the things that stands out to us is, these palms that we carry during the Palm Sunday Mass. And perhaps you've been to one where you started outside the church and had the palms and processed into the church. And there's this reminder, this visible, physical reminder of the procession of our Lord Jesus into Jerusalem in a very triumphal tone of everybody welcoming him as the Messiah. And then, of course, then we go on in the liturgy to read from the gospel the account of him entering Jerusalem, but read all the way to when he's carrying his cross and put to death. And so there's actually, this sort of uncomfortable tension in there of the triumphant entry into Jerusalem and also the suffering and the rejection of Christ. But the church is intentionally giving us that tension in the same liturgy,
Yeah, it almost makes you think of there being two crowds, this crowd that welcomes Christ in with palm branches and welcomes him into Jerusalem. And then this crowd that turns around, and condemns him to death and wants his death, and it's a beautiful way that the church is calling us to remember that in our own lives, that the times when we hurt Christ, that we call for his crucifixion, that we hurt him by the way we treat others, and then the other times when we, call him and celebrate him, and stuff like that. But that tension that we face in our own lives for the times that we mess up and we sin.
Yeah, and I think the church is inviting us to see ourselves as part of both of those crowds. Where do I follow Christ when it's easy, but then when it involves the cross, how do I become part of that other crowd that's jeering at him? And, I always find it so powerful on Palm Sunday that as we read the gospel, we say certain lines as the congregation, and one of those is in the crowd saying, "Crucify him, crucify him." And every time we say that, there's that deep pain of that is me. It's my sins that put him to death. I'm the one calling for him to be crucified.
Yeah, and in many ways, Kevin, it reminds me of this waiting that we see in the Jewish people all throughout the Old Testament, waiting for a Messiah, waiting for a ruler to come and to set them free. But how Jesus wasn't necessarily what they expected, but he did come to set them free. He came to set them free from their sins. And through his sacrifice on the cross, the ultimate sacrifice, the best king that they could have ever hoped for, but one that maybe they weren't looking for.
Yeah, and that brings us right back to that tension on Palm Sunday between the triumphal entry and then the suffering of the cross. And those are there at the same time for a reason, because it's really through that suffering that Christ becomes victorious and reigns. And he makes the cross into his throne. He's truly king, but he reigns from the throne of the cross. And it reminds me of something that a seminary professor of mine says, that's the motto of the Christian life is per crucem ad lucem, through the cross to the light. That our goal is not the cross ultimately. It's not just suffering, but we do have to pass through there to get to the light, just like Jesus did.
Absolutely. And too, we wanted to mention as well on Palm Sunday, you'll receive palms. Maybe last year during the pandemic you weren't able to receive any, but good news, this year you can. And I know there's a tradition too that we all have about folding those palms into crosses. And we wanted to mention how beautiful that is.
Absolutely.
It's a great tradition.
And I think it's such a perfect encapsulation of what we've been talking about, that you have the palm, the symbol of the victory, the triumph and his procession in, but we folded it into the shape of a cross, the symbol of that suffering. And it can be a visible reminder for us all throughout Lent of that fact that we are called to go through the cross to the light in our Christian life.
Absolutely. So that's what we have today for Weird Catholic Things.
So thanks for joining us to learn a little bit about Palm Sunday. We hope to see you at our liturgies this weekend. God bless.